Very good. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the school committee meeting of June 15th, 2022. Welcome. Good to see you all again. It's been a long week, but glad to have you here, and hopefully we'll finish up a relatively brief agenda tonight, hopefully on the early side. To just go through and we need to approve tonight's agenda. I do have one change to the agenda, which is we'll remove item 8, which is approve the minutes. Are there any other changes or deletions to the agenda? Okay, otherwise then we will move ahead to superintendent's report. Superintendent Jett.
So thank you, Chair Roseman. I'll try to give you a quick update from the district, but before I get started, I do want to acknowledge 6 individuals that given a lot of time out of their life to the Milton Public Schools. We were able to honor 3 of them today who were able to make it in the courtyard. And I want to commend the school committee for taking the time to acknowledge these individuals for their many years of service. Very quickly, for those who are viewing in or may watch this later, Tracy Attire, she is the ABA therapist in the integrated preschool. She worked in the Milton Public Schools since 2001. She will be retiring at the end of this academic year. Michael Cleary, social studies teacher at the Pierce Middle School. He devoted 28 years to the Milton Public Schools. Judith Bygate, even though there's many years in education, she was with us as a psychologist since 2018. She will be ending her career as a psychologist in Milton Public Schools at the end of this year. Joe Dolan, even though Joe Dolan retired right before the academic year, we still felt the need to acknowledge him as well. Mr. Dolan worked for the Milton Public Schools since 1995 as a Tucker teacher, and also eventually moved to the Pierce as a teacher after several years at the Tucker Elementary School. One of the reasons why people might still see Mr. Dolan's name around, he still remains the rugby coach at the high school. And so we still have the luxury of seeing Mr. Dolan, but he has put in many, many years. April Allegrezza, many people know her as the music teacher over at the Cunningham Collicott campus. April Allegrezza has worked in education, and particularly in Milton Public Schools, since 1986. She will be retiring at the end of this year. And finally, after 37 years, Susan Hennessy, who came into the Milton Public Schools in or around 1985. So I just wanted to give share on behalf of the district. I just wanted to share my appreciation and thank those individuals for their many years of service, but also thank their families for sharing those individuals with us for so many years. So quick kudos to these individuals, give them a round of applause. And if folks, between the next 6 days, if you happen to see them, please extend your appreciation and gratitude for the years and time that they put in the Milton Public Schools. So thank them. Well, quick COVID update, and it will be very quick. I am pleased to announce, it's still unfortunate, but still pleased to announce the numbers are going in the right direction. This week, we reported to the state earlier today, only 4 staff and 7 students. That is probably the lowest we've had in a long time. 4 staff and 7 students that tested positive for COVID-19. As I mentioned, I don't know if it was the last school committee meeting, I'm scared to say last week or 2 weeks ago, I forget what it was, but the last school committee, we're going to continue with symptomatic testing. Students and staff continue to get the at-home testing kits throughout the summer and at the beginning of the year, as long as supplies last. We will not be continuing that after that. Obviously, if we see a spike, then we will revisit that. But that is the recommendation. We were on a webinar last week with the state. So hopefully we're starting to see COVID-19 in the rearview mirror, and we could move on and enjoy our summers and look forward to a better academic year, COVID-free. I don't know if people have any questions about that, but again, we have testing kits that are still available. We still have a surplus. We'll continue that for the next 6 days this academic year for folks who want to take one home. And then we will have them for our summer programs, which very quickly, I'll give you a quick update. This summer, we're going to service more than 1,000 students in our summer programs. As of right now, we're a little north of 200 students in the MSc program, Milton Summer Enrichment. For the first time, we're topping 300 students that will participate in one or two, between the two sessions for Welcome to Middle School. 300 students will take advantage of that program. I'm excited about that. The ESY, Extended School Year Services, we have well over 400 students that will participate in our summer program. We have about 70 students that will participate in our calculus project program for this summer, 15 to 20 students in the bridge program. And I don't have the number for credit recovery right now, but we will have a number of students under the umbrella of MSc as part of the credit recovery that will be participating in that. As you can imagine, that sometimes boils down to the very last grades that are implemented. And so hopefully it's not that many for that program. But even still, we do have some students who, if they would like to take a summer course, they could do that. And sometimes we might have a few people outside of it. I was pleased to announce that 9 parents participated in the night program as part of our ESL, English as a Second Language program. And we have about 16 students that are gonna have services over the course of the summer, again, to help them advance their English speaking skills. So the Milton Public Schools will still be thriving and busy with students in the building, and that does not count the many different camps that you would see occupying the building. So between the COVID and that, I just stop right there and ask if you guys have any questions about the summer program or any COVID or COVID testing. Chair Roseman?
Yeah, I was just wondering which buildings will be involved in these summer programs.
Very good question. So you have some students, a vast majority of students will be at the high school. Oh, excuse me, 186 students will be participating in Camp Cunningham. That will be over at the Collycott Cunningham. I forgot to mention that. We have a vast majority of the students at the high school campus. That seems to be the hub. And then you got summertime reading. I just don't know how many people are going to participate in that. That's done by Marty McKenna. And they work with that, and they have a rain date or indoor date. I just don't know how many students are in that at the moment. But for the vast majority of the students, it'll be at Collycott Cunningham in the high school. And you might have a small number of students at Glover and Tucker at some point in time. Obviously, the Welcome to Middle School camp takes place at the Pierce Middle School, because the whole goal is to get students acclimated to the building, the routine, hopefully some staff, lockers, and kind of giving them the tours so they know how to get there. And that'll alleviate some of the anxiety, the stress, and help us get a nice little jump start to the start of the academic year.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions? Well, that's nice. And the last thing I want to share is that, or a couple of things I want to share. We had a little bit of a delay, and I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank all of the parents at the Pierce, parents and guardians at the Pierce Middle School. Obviously, the unfortunate situation last Friday where we had to go into a lockdown for several hours. As we said on a call on Sunday night with approximately 140 parents and guardians, which I said then, that means at least 800 parents and guardians didn't make it to the meeting. But I just want to publicly thank them for their patience, their understanding, their flexibility and support. We understand, even though it ended up in not being a weapon, but we did have 3 live 9mm bullets that one placed in 3 different bathrooms. Although there was no immediate physical threat and we couldn't determine a physical threat, as I said, I believe in my heart of hearts, those bullets were placed to disrupt the school and looking for attention. And regardless if someone thinks it's a prank, I think the fear, the anxiety, and the disruption is very real and it's very unfortunate. And I hope that that is something that we could all learn from. The bigger issue is trying to find out where an individual in the middle school is accessing 3 live 9mm bullets. to be able to have on his or her possession and bring into the school. That's a bigger issue for me. And so I would take this opportunity, as I said on Sunday, to remind parents, some folks apply for and have the right to bear arms and have the right to have that in their home. But I'm asking people, by law, you're supposed to lock up ammunition, lock up those weapons, especially if you have young kids. If not for bringing ammunition or weapon to the school for their own safety, so someone's not accidentally hurting themselves. And so we have some work to do. And one of the things that I continue to remind parents about when we go into these lockdown situations, you're always going to get an update faster than I could give an update or a principal could give an update. You are always going to get that update. Soon as someone says lockdown, kids go to their phones. And so what I ask people to do, and I did so on Sunday, if you want to know about your child's security, you ask, are you safe in a room with an adult? I don't have a problem with that because that's intel that could potentially ease your anxiety. But I don't want people to start speculating and participating in a rumor mill and saying all of these things that are happening because sometimes they weren't happening. And when we post those on social media and we do things like that, it creates more fear and more anxiety. And as much as we say, don't come to the facility, if there was an active shooter, the folks who are coming to the facility are putting themselves in harm's way as well. The second piece of that is, if you have 100 to 200, 300 people coming to the facility in their vehicles, these schools, the area around them during the school day with faculty and staff are very crowded. And by bringing your cars, you could be impeding the first responders and preventing them from getting to a situation in a timely manner. So we ask for your cooperation. I understand that we have your sons and daughters, your children in our buildings, and you want to make sure that they're safe. But we also want to make sure that the first responders are able to do their job and do it effectively and efficiently. So I understand the anxiety, and we ask again for your ongoing support. We're going to continue to try to support our students and staff. And we're going to continue to try to proactively educate the students to make sure things like this do not happen. My final comment on that is, I've always said we want students to be seen, heard, and feel valued. Anyone that does that felt like they needed a little bit of attention. At least that is my assumption. And so my hope is that that doesn't happen again. And I don't know if school committee members, you had an opportunity to step away from this situation over the weekend and over the last couple of days. I don't know if you have any questions or comments regarding whether the lockdown itself or the follow-up in the aftermath. Member Rostetti?
As many of you know, I have a child at the middle school, and I appreciate how well the situation was handled. And I thank the administration and the police, everyone who showed up to create a safer environment for our kids. I was really surprised that the range of emotions that we saw, the ones I expected were the kids who were crying as they left the building. But actually what concerned me more are the kids who were indifferent, who this is their new normal, and this is what they expect. And I recognize that when you have, almost 1,000 students, you have a series of faculty, on any given day, anything can happen. And there's no big point to this except to say we've gone too far in our society when kids are in a lockdown and they're okay with it and they're comfortable being scared because this is what they expect for the rest of their lives. And I hope as a community, we can do better. As families, we can do better because as I said, when Superintendent Jett made his speech a couple of weeks ago at the MEA event, we're asking too much of our educators and we're now asking too much of our students and we can do better. I truly believe that. And it's not the school's responsibility. We as family members who are responsible for these young people have to do better.
Thank you, Member Rostetti. Any other comments? So with that being said, I do want to let folks know that Many parents who had children in the schools pre-pandemic know that we have security meetings, or we had security meetings that took a back seat during the pandemic in some cases, because I have revisited with former Sergeant Jack Richmond, who's still working in some capacity with the Milton Police Department, who's a specialist in this. He's part of the Norfolk County SWAT team. They're the folks in a real life situation where we're responding to this. A lot of parents want to know a lot of the details about security, and sometimes we can't put those details out publicly, because sometimes by doing so, it could compromise some of our security measures. But he will be speaking to our faculty and staff on Tuesday as well. Before that, we will be reconvening our security team and going through that process. We've made some significant enhancements over the years, certain protocols, but we're going to continue that to make sure that we're on our P's and Q's and moving forward, and making sure that we do our due diligence as the adults in the building to provide students with the proper guidance and support. But I do caution people, there's so many different scenarios that could play out. We're never going to have a concrete script for everything that could happen. But our goal is to do our best, be prepared, and exercise our best judgment as adults when we have students. So I guess I would end on that. Oh, Dr. Miranda, sorry about that. I didn't see your hand.
No, no problem. My hand just went up, but as you were speaking, and I was reflecting on sort of the comment, which I think makes a lot of sense, that, you know, asking parents to stay away is obviously in terms of safety, it makes a lot of sense. It's logical. However, from an emotional perspective, it is not. So just wondering sort of from your perspective, and as you think about sort of plans, and it's unfortunate that we even have to plan, but sort of what would that protocol be that would pay attention to safety, but at the same time acknowledge that as a parent, your first instinct is to run. I mean, you know, I can tell you I live so close to the school, and I could hear the helicopters, I could hear everything. And I know I was in tears, and I don't have a kid there, but I know many folks do. And I was thinking of every single young person and every single parent. So I guess I would urge us to think about not just sort of, you know, we know that parents are not going to stay away. That's just the reality. So how can we think about sort of creating a plan, right? Of, you know, this is something that you can do. This is what we're going to do. Just to make sure that we acknowledge the reality of the human reaction, which is, I want to be there for my kid. So I would urge us to think about that. And obviously continued the social emotional focus to make sure our young people, our students know that if you see something, you're worried about something, it's okay to say something, right? Like that's the part that I know that there are many surrounding districts that are doing sort of those kind of ongoing trainings of just helping young people understand that they're part of sort of the protocol of keeping everybody safe as well, so that they don't become indifferent to the situation, but they are proactive as well.
Thank you very much for raising that question. And I do want to extend a thanks to the parents who were getting a little feedback. I just want to thank the parents who were there, because we did have more than about 300 parents on Central Ave in Brook Road. And I have to say, a couple of times I went to the different groups to give them an update, and all of them were very understanding, respected the boundaries. In the beginning, a couple of people came up and we had to redirect them, but I want to say to those parents, any of them out there, and it could have been some of you, I don't know, it was a large crowd, but they heard and got some of the updates, and they were very respectful about it. And that I have to be thankful. Because I know, and as much as I say, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm a father, and I would probably be right there as well. So I understand that, and thank you for bringing that. And then remember, Ross Denny said another thing about parents being involved in this. One of the things I'm asking you is always remind your kids before they leave the school. And I said this the other night, if they go camping, if they go fishing, if they're out and about and they're doing things, and sometimes people go hunting, take their kids hunting, It's just like going through the airport. You are responsible for what you have in your bag and what you carry on your person. And so if you do those type of activities, please make sure. Some kids have these air guns, which I caution people about buying young kids these air guns without the orange tip, because some of them are starting to look real, more real than ever before. And so just be mindful of that. Even in the show, you don't, again, the anxiety and the fear that people have when these things happen is very real, and we need to be mindful of that. So thank you all. And if there's no more questions, I want to end on one final positive note, even though there's many things that are positive that are happening in the schools. Last night in Brockton at Campanelli Field, the Milton High School baseball team defeated North Attleboro 13-6. They will be playing this coming Saturday, June 18th in Worcester. Look out for the information there. They're going to be playing, I believe it's King Phillips. King Phillips won this evening, 1-0 over Mansfield. So Milton High School baseball team will be playing for the state championship on Saturday. More details to follow. And I believe if they win it, which I have all the belief and confidence in the world that they will do so, this will be the first championship for that team since 1974, I believe. And so we're looking forward to it. So any parent that's out there that's looking, or student that's out there looking to do something on a Saturday, when you have a crowd of people cheering you on, that helps with the adrenaline. And sometimes it could stifle the confidence of the other team. So if people are looking for something to do and you want to venture out and take a ride down the Mass Pike, feel free to do so and come out to the game. And I believe the game is going to be at 6 o'clock in the students. And if we win, I probably shouldn't say this out loud. If we win, I would probably be the first one to call Chief Madden and Chief King and see about getting the escort when we cross the border of the town of Milton to escort these students around to let the community relish in a huge accomplishment. And so that will be the goal. I'm looking for. We need another positive parade in the town. So I just share that with you. Thank you, guys.
Well, congratulations to our baseball team, and we wish them the best of luck in the game coming up. And Assistant Superintendent Dexter, good luck to your son, who's part of the team, and we're all rooting for them for sure. So please keep us posted. Thank you, Superintendent Jett.
Thank you.
So next on our agenda is Citizen Speak. If anyone in our audience would like to speak tonight, we have 3 minutes per speaker, and people would just need to raise their hand, and someone will promote you to speak tonight. We'll take a look at our attendees. If anyone would like to speak, give you a moment.
Chair Rosemary, I'm checking right now. I do not see any hands up. I see approximately seven people on the call. So if anyone out there wants to speak, we give it about 30 seconds. Okay, I don't see any hands up, Chair Rosemary.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So then we will move on to our next item. Let me just find my agenda here. Here we go. Next item on the agenda is our draft calendar for 2022-23. You all received the draft calendar in your materials that we were sent by Charlene Roach. These are proposed dates for meetings coming up for the year ahead, and Charlene has provided, has filled in for us the typical times of year that we have various reports and obligations that come on an annual basis. The one thing that's at the very top of the calendar that I will suggest we need to change is the date for the retreat, which is actually August 3rd instead of whatever date is on there. It was something in July, I believe. I already changed it on my calendar, but that will be August 3rd. And I'm hoping that we might be able to finish our school committee subcommittees assignments at tonight's meeting. So if so, we would take that topic off of that particular agenda, but we'll get to that in a minute. But take a look at the calendar, and when we get back together, if you find any conflicts or any, if you have any questions about the calendar, please let me or Charlene Roach know. But otherwise, you can take this calendar and fill in your own calendar for our meetings for the coming year. Any questions about that? Okay, well, if not, we will move ahead. We won't approve the calendar tonight, but we'll put that on a subsequent meeting agenda to be sure we finalize that. Okay, next on the agenda is Milton School Committee subcommittees. And I've asked Superintendent Jett, thank you, Superintendent Jett, to share the screen. I have taken all of your preferences. Thank you all for submitting your preferences to me. And I have compiled those into this document that shows who we've got lined up for which subcommittees. And we'll see as we go through them I would say in most cases, this is working out really well. There are a few holes, there are a couple of questions here and there, but let's go through them slowly if we can. So finance and policy subcommittees are our two primary subcommittees of the school committee. And the thing that I really like about the way this has worked out for both finance and policy is that we have 3 members on each, and there are each of the 3 members are from different years of how long they've been on school committee and when their term ends. So I think that that's a really good arrangement in terms of just having a good succession plan as we move forward, that new people are being oriented and moved in, and as others move on, that we can just continue to add to that. But I think those are both look good. 3 members on each finance and policy. And I'll just run through them quickly and then we can discuss them. So then these are the advisory committees now. So under health and wellness, we've had 2 folks prefer to be on this subcommittee, is Dr. Carol and Anna Varghese, member Varghese. So that would be great. And moving along, this has sort of a long description to it, longer than most. There we go. Then the Curriculum and Instruction Advisory Committee will have the same 3 members who've been on it this year. I have down member Ross Denny as chair, if you're still willing to chair that, and then Dr. Carroll and member White to continue on that committee. There There we go. Facilities Advisory. We have Member White will be chairing that, and Dr. Miranda has agreed to join that subcommittee. All right, and if you could keep scrolling down. Strategic planning. Dr. Miranda has agreed to join that strategic planning advisory committee, which is wonderful. School building committee. We've got 3 people who have volunteered for this committee, and we only have 2 seats on the school building committee. So one of these members will need to move off and move into something else or change things around. But let's take a look at the rest of it, and then we can come back and I'll let you all add your thoughts. So we have a few openings. One is a liaison to the Student Advisory Committee, to school committee, and the other is the second person on our bargaining team. We have Dr. Carroll, who has agreed to serve on that this year, but she needs a partner for that bargaining. And then for the Capital Improvement Planning Committee, we have Member White has agreed to do that. And then we have, let's see, oh, there we go, thank you. We have Milton Foundation for Education. Member Ross Denny has agreed to continue with that. And we have an opening with the Milton Access TV Board, and the Security Committee is one, as Superintendent Jett mentioned, has been kind of dormant over the recent years. But I think there's general agreement that we need to come back to having school committee member on that, and Member Varghese has volunteered for that. And then last, we have an opening on the Inclusion Task Force. And I think that's the last one. Is that right, Superintendent Jett? Oh, nope, sorry. No, we've got, yeah. So if you scroll up just a little bit for the devolved responsibilities for signing the vendor warrant, Member White has agreed to do that as in her role as chair of finance, and with Member Ross Denny as backup, and then appointed representatives for the 5-year financial plan committee and the special ed collaborative of Assistant Superintendent Dexter and Superintendent Jett. So that's where we are. And I will open it up to comments, thoughts, suggestions. Dr. Carroll.
A couple things. So I was one of the 3 people volunteering for the school building committee. I am fine to not be one of the 2 that serves on that committee, just to put that out there. And then the other thing I was just gonna mention, in light of the student liaison, the liaison to the student representatives, student government at Milton High School. I served in that role this past year, and I wanted actually to acknowledge, because right before we started this conversation, I see in the chat, Cora Redmond sort of put a note that she had to go, but thanks us for including her in the meetings this year. Reminds us that student government elections are happening at the high school right now, which determines who the student representatives are to the school committee. So they elect a class president for each class, and Cora was the president of the sophomore class. All the student representatives are welcome and invited to participate in the school committee meetings, and Cora was the student who chose to spend her time that way with us this year, and I'm really grateful that she made that commitment. I think it was really valuable to have her presence in our meetings. And I know she had a lot of other things that she could be doing with her time. I am like hopeful, and I took on that role last year, very optimistic and hopeful about trying to kind of jumpstart some new ways of getting our student representatives involved in the work that we're doing. I think we all understand this past year was very challenging in certain ways for both our students and our faculty who advise the student government. And there were a lot of competing demands on people's time. So I wanted to sort of, create that as an opening. If any of you, my colleagues, feel passionate and excited to kind of bring some fresh energy into that role, I do see so much potential for how we can better engage our student representatives in our work. And I really did enjoy the opportunities that I had to be in contact with them in different ways. I am happy to continue in that role if nobody else would like to fill it. But I just wanted to kind of put in a plug for that if anybody is interested. And just publicly, I'm sorry she left before I had the opportunity to do it, but to publicly thank Cora for her thoughtful participation this year.
Thank you, Dr. Carroll. Dr. Miranda.
So yes, so Dr. Carroll, thank you for actually going into and explaining that role a bit more. As you talk about it, obviously, given sort of my interest and passion for positive youth development, I would love to take on that role if you're willing to, and think creatively with young people on how they can bring their voice into the process. So yes, I'd love to do that.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
And also in terms of the bargaining team, I'm also happy to, sort of join you as a partner in that work as well. So I raise my hand for that too.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Miranda. We have 2 more openings that we need representatives for. Milton Access TV board, which meets, I'd say monthly. I've been doing that for the last 5 years. And it's a great board, small board, and Milton Access does so much for the town, and there are so many great possibilities for partnerships with the schools that they've already been doing and still could do, and it's I think a really important. It's a tremendous asset for the town as our local TV station. So I encourage anybody who's interested. Member Varghese, I see your hand.
I'm happy to take that on, actually.
Okay, wonderful.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
And sorry, I do have an H in my name, so after the G, there's a H-E-S-E.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yes. Thank you. I will fix that. Thank you. And one more we've got an opening on is the Inclusion Task Force. And I'm not sure who did that this year. Was it you, Member Ross Denny? I don't remember.
I did, but the Inclusion Task Force was disbanded. So in fact, I had been meeting with the CPAC instead. And traditionally, school committee members have not participated in the CPAC. Susan Maselli has been the representative for the district attending those meetings. So we should probably have a discussion as to whether or not it's appropriate to replace it with CPAC, or if it's also sufficient that Susan Maselli continues to participate in their meetings on behalf of the administration in lieu of a school committee member.
Mhm. Well, from your experience, do you have a sense? Do you have advice for us from your
So I think that
perspective?
because of Susan's deep knowledge about what's happening on each campus, she has contributed significantly more to the discussion than I could with my limited purview. So I don't think it's providing the impact that could happen, but Susan is doing that. She's able to answer their questions and give them feedback, give them perspective on what's happening locally and nationally. I don't, as I said, that there is in fact the no inclusion committee. But if Susan continues in her capacity to participate in those meetings, it might be the appropriate time to remove that from the list.
Mhm, mhm. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Superintendent Jett, do you have any thoughts about that in terms of school committee representation being needed in that area, or do you think that having Susan Maselli, who's obviously a tremendous resource to CPAC, representing all of us?
Without question, I agree. And I think if it was something that needs to be informed, you could always have a representative from CPAC give an update to school committee, whether it be under the chair's report or under the superintendent's report. And I say that very respectfully. I see the number of committees you have and the number of school committee meetings we have to have you guys out with full-time jobs. That's a lot. But I do agree with Member Ross Denny. Actually, I think many of us would be in agreement. I think Susan Maselli is a good representative with a wealth of knowledge and expertise that she could definitely share far more than, with all due respect, many of us could kind of share with the group. And she does have that right at her fingertips. So I am fine with that.
Okay, that's terrific. Thank you. Well, we will cross that off of our list. In which case, I think we may be all set. Any other questions about the assignments? I will send this out to all of you.
Yeah, Roseman, can I just say one thing? And I'm going back to the days when Leroy Walker was school committee chair, but also sat on a security meeting. I know that is a meeting that's on this committee, but I do need to say, or I should say, in the past, it has not been a public meeting, like facilities or things like that. Obviously, you could guess why, but also there's going to be limited information that, and I don't want to say that you can't give updates, but there will be limited information in terms of certain specific security initiatives, enhancements. Like we could say with cameras in the buildings and on the facilities. You might not be able to list where all the cameras are. But I do want to say to the general public, no one is sitting in front of a camera watching what kids or staff are doing. The cameras are there for a purpose of going back in the event that there was an issue to go back. I don't think anyone has the time in their schedules to sit and watch 6.5 hours of activity within the building. But it's always looking at a time frame of an incident or a situation where you could go back and kind of gather information. So I just wanted to share that because for those who are watching or Member Bagis, it may not be one of those things where it's public. And sometimes we take obviously the guidance from the police. In the past, we had a member of the fire department. And when I say in the past, this was just a short couple of years ago. It just stopped when COVID hit. But a member from the fire department, the police department, principal representatives, athletic director, IT, obviously with technology cameras and things like that. So it has a number of people on there. And then occasionally we bring in people, whether it be from Norfolk County SWAT or the drill. So just want to give some perspective for that group. because anyone's on here listening or sees us at a later date, say, why aren't you giving us all these updates about security? It's just something that hasn't been done.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Member Varghese?
Thank you, Mr. Jett, for clarifying that. I appreciate, no, I look forward to working with the team and making sure that, like, just making sure that our kids are safe, our parents are, at ease, and some of the things, even when Dr. Miranda was talking, I felt the same way about the incidents happening. I was actually at the Cunningham Field Day during that time, and there were a lot of parents there with middle schoolers. So I definitely sensed their anxiety. And I have I have a soon-to-be middle schooler, so it was very close to home for me. And I also live very close to the school, so yeah, I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to keep our kids safe and our teachers and our staff. Thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I think also in terms of any financial commitments that the district wants to make in terms of security, that needs to be on the school committee's radar as well. So I think in that regard, it would be important to have a school committee representative, in addition to just the timeliness of what's going on in our world these days. So thank you, Member Varghese, for volunteering for that, and to Superintendent Jett for explaining the delicacy with which we need to deal with that particular topic. Dr. Carroll?
Yeah, I was also just going to say, given the delicacy and the need to be, mindful of that, I'm also, I think, glad, Member Varghese, that you're on that committee and also will be serving on policy in the event that we do in kind of re-engaging with that security team, realize the need to update any of our policies. Then I think that would be helpful, that you sort of are able to bring what you're able to from the security group meetings into those policy discussions. Could be useful.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Thank you, Dr. Carroll. So, it's hard to, I'm not sure how to how about if we run through this updated list one more time, and then I think it'd be nice to just, I don't know if we have to take a vote on this. It doesn't look like on the agenda that we've got it for a vote. But I guess what I'll do is I will send this updated list of assignments for subcommittees to you all. But thank you all for being flexible and for volunteering for these subcommittees. As you all know, it's a lot of where the work of the school committee gets done, and they're very important to our work. They inform a lot of what we do at school committee meetings, and those are the places that we really get into the details of the work of the school committee. So, and it is a time commitment, which I very much recognize and appreciate your participation. So thank you. I'll get the revised list out to you all. And if you have any questions, just get back to me, okay? So next,
I just have one, sorry, Chair
Yep.
Rosemary, I just have one more question
Yeah.
about the timing of this. So if we do it, are we assuming that these subcommittees will begin meeting sort of around that end of August timeframe, early September, depending on the committee?
Yeah.
That's kind of how it works, right? And we would have to vote. I'm assuming we have to vote to approve these subcommittee assignments before we actually convene any of the subcommittees But a logistical thing I'm thinking about is beginning to schedule some of them like sooner, because we know how busy everything will start to get on our calendars. So
Right,
is that something that we can begin to think about before we may formally approve them, if that's not
Yeah.
until our next meeting?
Oh, certainly, certainly you know, begin to look at your calendar and try to figure out how it's going to fit in. You know, it was on, as we, in our previous item, it was on the agenda for our retreat. So I could leave it on there and we could vote on it at the retreat. And that would be the beginning of August, and would give you time to plan for the year. So if that's okay, then we can just leave it at that. Superintendent Jet?
Yeah, I was gonna say if we schedule another meeting towards the tail end of this month, that might be a short meeting that it could be voted on then to be ready.
Right.
And just one more thing, and I failed to mention this, oftentimes, and I share this with member Vagis, oftentimes those security meetings are actually during the school day, because sometimes we're walking around and you want people in the building to see some of those things. So I failed to say that. They were always during the school day, those security meetings. It doesn't mean it has to be that way, but it's nice to be able to have the meetings and be able to walk through the buildings and try to identify soft spots and to try to identify certain things that you're working on. And it's nice to see when people are actually in the building. So I failed to say that, but just wanted to.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. Member Varghese?
Thank you. No, that's great. You clarified, as you know, as long as like when we schedule, we can, hopefully fit it into the calendars in advance so I can block off that time from work. That'd be great. Awesome.
Mhm. Terrific, terrific. So, yeah, as Superintendent Jett mentioned, it's part of our next agenda item. So I think I'll move to that, and then we can decide if we'd prefer to put the review and vote on the subcommittees on an agenda for June 29th, or do it at August 3rd. Either one is fine with me. But let's move on to that item C, which is Superintendent's Summative Evaluation. And I, hold on one sec. Yeah, I'm just remembering something else relative to the calendar that I didn't bring up too. I'm going to go back to that for a second, if you don't mind, to just be sure. I just want to update you all on that. We have August 3rd, and I believe that was a date that we all agreed that we could be available for our retreat date. And right now it's scheduled for 4 o'clock, to begin at 4 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 in the evening, with a dinner break in between. And I just wanted to let you know that we have invited the field director from Mass Association of School Committees to come and help facilitate that meeting. A woman named Dorothy Presser, who Dr. Carol and I spoke with last week. She came recommended by Superintendent Jett and his network. She is quite experienced person. She's worked with MASC for 8 years. Is a coach and curriculum developer. She's done a number of workshops for school committee members around roles and responsibilities, superintendent evaluations, goal setting, and has advised multiple school committees on different issues that school committees deal with. I think she would be a wonderful facilitator for our retreat, and she has agreed to make herself available to come meet with us then. she also is still on the Linfield School Committee. She's been on since 1998 and was a chair for 12 years. And she's just got an enormous background and experience, and I think she could really help us a lot with the the school committee retreat. And we talked with her about doing some work with us around team building as we're all getting to know each other, goal setting to help us set our goals, and to be sure that we're keeping the goals focused on things that school committee can accomplish ourselves, and sort of within our lane of responsibilities, and to also advise us on the superintendent evaluation process, with which she's very experienced and familiar. So I just wanted to let you all know that we have arranged to have her come, and I think it will really help our retreat be a meaningful one. So I just wanted to hit that, and then let me jump back down to item C, which is superintendent's summative evaluation. And this, I apologize for bringing this up so late in the year, but it's being new as a chair. It's not something that was really on my radar, and we had done a mid-cycle evaluation with Superintendent Jett as late as beginning of April, I think it was. It kept getting delayed this year with Chair Eberhardt while she was still here. So it felt in some ways like we had already just done this. But the fact is that there's what's called a summative evaluation, which is the end of the year cycle that we still are responsible to do. And we just kind of ran out of time in our meetings. And so what I'd like to propose, if you all can make yourselves available, is a tentative date of June 29th to have one additional meeting where we would take care of handling the results of the superintendent's summative evaluation. And I can talk a little bit more about the process, but let's talk about the date first. First of all, is that I know that Member Varghese is going to be out of the country. And I've already spoken to her about this, but any other thoughts? Dr. Miranda?
I'm actually going to be traveling on that day, so I will not be available.
Okay, all right. So question is, so that puts us down to 4. Member Rostani?
Would it be sufficient to secure the written feedback? Would that be adequate, or do we not have enough members to participate?
Yeah, it has to be done in a public session. Are you saying could we get everybody's input?
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, there's a written document that coincides with it. It's not just oral feedback.
That's right.
So,
yeah.
I think Margaret may have been the person to share the summary of people's feedback, and then the form was open for people to add or publicly add or supplement what was shared verbally by Margaret. But I'm not sure if that is the required format.
Right. Yeah, there is a required format, and that I've gotten from Desi. Margaret shared with me, and Charlene Roach got a version of it that is that you're able to actually write into. I just had a PDF copy of it, and it wasn't really a form. So there is an actual form that we would need to fill out, and it includes ratings and the like. But that is, you raise a good question, Member Ross, Denny. Member White?
So my question is, this summative evaluation, is this for the past calendar year? So
Yeah.
I would wonder whether or not, just for a point of semantics, whether or not Dr. Miranda and Member Varghese, who have just joined the committee very recently, would be in a position to evaluate James, since they really were not here during the year where we were evaluating him. And, you know, I don't know. I don't know what the protocol is. I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's an issue, but I think that it will always be an issue for school committees, because the turnover with elections happens, and it's just part of the reality of the way our committee works. I provided some materials to Member Varghese because she is leaving the country at the end of this week. And to me, it seems reasonable, because she has received a copy of the mid-cycle evaluation. She has Superintendent Jett's goals for the year. She has superintendent's end of the year report, which will be something that we'll all receive. While Member Varghese and Dr. Miranda are new, I think they have a lot of information to go into their evaluations. So I think it's reasonable. I think every year we would be running into this, and we have to accommodate the fact that we will have turnover. Dr. Carroll, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, I think it's a really good question that you're raising, Member White. And I also agree with you, Chair Rosemarin. I think, however long we've been on the school committee, like, we all have the 6 of us have 6 totally different vantage points, and we will interpret the evidence shared through Superintendent Jett's reports, differently. So I kind of think about how this summative evaluation is like a collaboration between what all 6 of us contribute to it. And no 2 of us will see everything the exact same way, but that's a benefit. That's like, it's all of us combining our assessments into one document that is shared. That's like, I think that's a strength of the process. And so, some of us may pick up on similar things or different things. And I think that's actually totally fine. And some of us will have more or less, to speak to, which is fine. And, I think given different assignments we've all taken this year, we've all gotten opportunities to work with Superintendent Jett in different capacities too. So, even if I've been here for a whole year, there may be certain things that I actually have less, to offer feedback on, but other things I can. So you see what I'm saying? I think it's just good and important to acknowledge, and you sort of did this, Chair Rosner, and like, this is the first time that as a Milton School Committee, we're embarking on this sort of formal process, which is provided to us by DESE. So I think, as with the way we approach goal setting for this year, like, I think I encourage us all to think about this as a beginning of a new approach. And like, we won't probably do this perfectly, and that's okay. I mean, we've already acknowledged and talked about this the calendaring for this for next year will be a little bit different, and we'll have the mid-year check-in earlier so that we can be doing the summative, before this meeting next year. So yeah, I think we'll all get the materials, and then we just can all, provide our feedback in the form, and then Chair Rosemary, you'll compile it. I think if, like, Member Varghese and Dr. Miranda, if you're okay with not participating in the open discussion for those logistical conflicts, I feel like to have 4 of us, as long as your written feedback is included, seems reasonable to me, as long as you're okay with it.
Member Varghese?
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with that. I wish I was in in a place where my internet access was better so that I can participate. I feel terrible. I would hate to schedule something and not be able to show up, especially with the time difference and the remote location we're going to be in. But yes, I will provide that before I leave, and then also I won't be able to participate in the vote for the subcommittees as well if that happens on the 29th. So if you guys are okay waiting till the 3rd of August, that would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
That's a good reason to just put that off to the 3rd.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Dr. Miranda, I was just going to ask you your opinion. There you go.
Got ahead of you.
Yeah.
No, I'm also fine with not being present during the meeting. That's fine. I will actually be on a plane at that hour, so I can't join at all. So, but definitely would provide my written feedback as needed, and look forward to doing that.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds great. Dr. Carroll?
Sorry, one more thing, just confirming this is a virtual meeting we're talking about. I will be on vacation, but they have internet in North Carolina, so I will be able to join from there. And I know we're still waiting to hear what happens with our ability to do that, as far as I know, beyond June 30th, but this kind of gets it right in.
Oh, yeah, it's July 15th is the
July
deadline.
15th. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, just to confirm, I can join as long as it's virtual on the 29th.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that is a quorum, having 4 of us there. And I have to say, on a pure selfish level, I would love to not have a school committee meeting in July. So thank you for squeezing this in. I think it'd be nice to take off the month of July. This has been a long year. So that sounds like a plan then, that we'll meet on the 29th. Dr. Miranda and Member Varghese will get your information into us before then. And let me just look at my notes here. So I guess the question is, so I will get the forms out to you, and the Superintendent Jett's goals, which you all probably have, but I'll send them to you again, as well as the mid-year update. Superintendent Jett, do you have your end of the year progress report done yet with your evidence that members can use also?
I could definitely get that to you guys by early to mid next week, hopefully. So you have it in enough time, but absolutely.
Okay.
Enough time to review.
All right. Well, the challenge is if early next week is good, but if we push too late, because it then needs to be submitted in, and I have to compile it before the 29th. So,
I would try to fit it in the same format. So it's a matter of whatever you do with it to cut and paste or whatever. We try to make it as easy as possible. I try to put the information with each of the goals to give that, but absolutely.
Great. Terrific. That'd be great. And then as you have that, if you can send that out to all of us. And then if people can get back to me, let me just look at the calendar again. What is a reasonable date? If we're meeting on the 29th, if you could get back to me by the end of next week, say the 24th, with your completed evaluation forms and any comments, and then I can compile those for the meeting on the 29th. Does that sound reasonable? It's kind of, everybody's got a kind of scurry to get those pieces done, but Dr.
I would
Carroll?
definitely try to get them to you, and maybe I might have to do it on Monday, which is a holiday, but I'll try to get them to you.
Oh dear.
I was just going to request that I know Charlene sent us a couple days ago 2 pieces, the evaluation form with the mid-year evaluation, but I was just going to request if we could is the only other piece the report that you need to compile, Superintendent Jett, for the okay, so if that's the only other piece, that's fine. But I was also just trying to see if they could all come as one all the attachments we need as one email, so that we just kind of have in one place everything that we need to do it.
Yeah. Well, Superintendent Jett, I don't want you doing it on a holiday.
No, I was teasing. I'll get it done.
Yeah. Maybe by Tuesday. And then if people could get their filled out evaluations back to me by the 24th. So 6/21 and 6/24. And then we'll meet on 6/29 at 7 p.m. at our usual time. Is that work for people? Dr. Miranda?
Yes, just wondering if there is any wiggle room in terms of the 24th, if we could just look at the 25th. I don't know if that's okay to get it to you, just in terms of my work schedule next week is horrendous. And so I just want to be realistic that I probably would be spending some time Friday evening into Saturday to make sure I get you the information. So just wondering if there's wiggle room. I would really appreciate that.
Sure. That's fine. Oh, sounds good. The 25th. Very good. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. And, I look forward to having Dorothy Presser from MASC there to help us think this process through so that next year we'll do it better. This is, we're doing the best we can with what we've got. But I think each year, and it sounds like she's really got some expertise in that area that could help us plan this. And I think also our goal setting for this year will be easier and more clear because we have the strategic plan in place, and that hopefully our goals and Superintendent Jett's goals will be aligned with that. And I just think that it will put us all sort of heading in the same direction, which is a great thing. So thank you, everyone, for going through that with us. Let me just take a look at the agenda. So next on the agenda, we have Finance Subcommittee report. Member White, would you like to?
Yep. So we have 2 motions to approve, 2 vendor warrants to approve tonight. The first is vendor warrant number 50, dated June 2nd, 2022, in the amount of $181,199.78. So can I have a second on that?
Yes, second.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna go around and for approval. Dr. Carroll,
Yes.
Chair Rose Marin,
Yes,
Member Varghese,
Yes.
Dr. Miranda,
Yes.
Member Ross Denny,
Yes.
and myself, yes. And the second vendor warrant that we need to have approved tonight is warrant number 51, dated June 10th, 2022. That's in the amount of $257,533.44. And may I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Going to go around for a roll call vote. Dr. Carroll,
Yes.
Chair Rose Marin,
yes,
Member Varghese.
Yes.
Okay, Dr. Miranda,
Yes.
Dr. Ross Denny, excuse me, Member Ross Denny.
Yes.
Okay, and myself is a yes. Okay, that's all for finance tonight, other than reporting on our budget, which passed at town meeting last night, which you all know because you were all there. But I wanted to also just take a minute to say that our team of Superintendent Jett, Assistant Superintendent Dexter, and Chair Rosemary did an unbelievably terrific job providing the details and speaking about some of the issues that we are facing as a school district. And I was very proud of the great job that everyone did. I think it made a big difference. And I think, if I remember correctly, 88% positive vote for our budget last night. So that was really great news. So I thank everybody for all of their efforts. And that's my report.
thank you, Member White, and thank you to town meeting members for supporting the school's budget. It was a lengthy debate and kind of arduous, but we really appreciated the ultimate decision to provide us with the funds that were recommended, and we'll do our best to spend it wisely. So thank you. Number 7, Policy Subcommittee. Dr. Carroll.
Thank you. So tonight we have 2 second readings on the policies that we discussed 2 weeks ago. The first, for each one, I'll entertain a motion to approve the second reading of the policy, and that will open it up for any final discussion, if there is any, before we can vote to approve the updates. So first, I'll make a motion to approve on a second reading policy EFD, which is the meal charge policy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Member Ross Denny. Does anybody have any questions or comments since we last discussed this? Okay. So if we're ready to take a vote on it, then I will just do a roll call vote. Policy EFD updates. Dr. Miranda?
Yes.
Member Varghese?
Yes.
Member Ross Denny?
Yes.
Member White?
Yes.
Chair Rose Marin?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. So thank you very much. That passes unanimously. And the next one, I will make a motion to approve a second reading of policy IHAMD, our wellness policy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on this one? Okay, so we'll just do another roll call vote. Member White?
Yes.
Chair Rosemary?
Yes.
Member Ross Denny?
Yes.
Member Varghese,
Yes.
and Dr. Miranda.
Yes.
I am also a yes, so that's another unanimous vote. And I think Jackie Morgan and the other members of the Health and Wellness Advisory Committee will be pleased. And thank you all. And thank you again, Member White, for all your work leading that advisory committee this year and all the work that resulted in these important updates to these two policies. The only final note to add, just to kind of close the loop in this subcommittee report, at the last subcommittee meeting on Monday, I think it was Monday, Chair Rosemary and I just kind of noted that we are postponing the further discussion and consideration of updates to policy JIC, which is the student conduct policy that had been under consideration this spring, as you know, and the last report I gave indicated that we would be bringing that back potentially for a first reading, potentially to this meeting. But we ended up not pursuing that discussion at either of the last two subcommittee meetings we had in the past few weeks, just out of recognition that, you know, it deserves a continued full conversation. And as we're about to reconstitute the subcommittees, it doesn't really make sense to open up a first reading of proposed revisions like before a break and then coming back with new members on the subcommittee. So I will look forward to keeping that conversation, which is very important, going as we return at the end of the summer with policy. So that concludes the policy report. Thank you all.
Great, thank you, Dr. Carroll. Thank you to the policy subcommittee and the health and wellness team for their work on that wellness policy in particular. So we do not have minutes to approve tonight. Next meeting agenda items, as we discussed, will be superintendent evaluation. And there's something gnawing at me that there was one other thing that we were talking about for that meeting, but that I can't remember right now, but I'll let you know what's the agenda. And we will hold off on the voting on the subcommittee assignments until our meeting, our retreat on August 3rd, when everyone is here. And so with that, I would like to adjourn this session and move into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to, hold on one sec. With respect to collective bargaining with the MEA, Unit A, and AFSCME, Council 93, since an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. And so we would not return to regular session from that meeting. We'll adjourn from that session. I make a motion to adjourn this meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. And roll call vote. Dr. Miranda?
Yes.
Member Varghese?
Yes.
Member Ross Denny?
Yes.
Dr. Carroll?
Yes.
Member White?
Yes.
And Chair Rosemary, yes. Very good. I'll see you all in executive session. Thank you.